afternoon to all the participants. Thank you all for joining for the distinguished lecture series on energy efficiency being organized by CII on a virtual platform. We have been having these distinguished lecture series since the month of May 2020. We have had the opportunity of some of very illustrious speakers joining us, sharing their thoughts on energy efficiency, sharing their views on where energy efficiency is today and what they see as the future perspectives and opportunities for India to look at. We had the first lecture from Mr. Ravichandran Purushothaman of Danfoss, Mr. Unni Krishnan from Thermax had joined us, Mr. Ranganath from Grundfos, Mr. V. Suresh, Chairman of the Indian Green Building Council, Dr. Ajay Mathur, then Director General of the Energy and Resources Institute, Mr. Tejpreet Chopra, Founder and CEO of Bharat Light and Power Group. We had also the speakers from the International Energy Agency, Dr. Naushad Forbes from Forbes Marshall, Dr. Jairam Varadaraj from LG Equipment, Paddu, who has led several energy efficiency programs from USAID, Dr. Rene Van Berkel, who heads the Regional Office of India for UNIDO, Mr. Raghupati, who is the Deputy Director General of CII, also spoke to us at this platform, and many other speakers over the last several months joined us in these virtual platforms and shared their perspectives and views on how energy efficiency is moving forward, what in their opinion needs to be done beyond to take it much beyond where it is right now. A very illustrious group, and we are very glad to have Mr. Vikram Kasbekar join us for the 20th lecture series in this line. Mr. Kasbekar is the Executive Director of Hero MotoCorp Limited, and he's also on the board of Hero MotoCorp Limited and several other companies. Rich experience in all facets, be it operations and supply chain, R&D, manufacturing, and project engineering. Next slide, please. Yes. He has also been contributing significantly in the group in terms of their sustainable manufacturing strategy, ensuring global standards in both the quality and delivery, and several other initiatives in the group. Of course, he has been leading in terms of both pricing, sourcing, statutory compliance, audit committees. Apart from this, he's also a very active player in CII's Northern Region Council, chairman of CII's Greenco Delhi Forum. Prior to his experience at Hero MotoCorp, he also has been the business head of Birla Copper, a rich experience there as well. Mr. Kasbekar is an alumni of IIT Madras, BTech Mechanical Engineering, 1976. Mr. Kasbekar, thank you very much for joining us. It's our pleasure that you could join us, and we look forward to your views and perspectives on how a large group like yours, sir, is approaching energy efficiency. What, in your views, can be done beyond as a country moving forward? So now the floor is yours, Mr. Kasbekar. Over to you.
Thank you, Kiran. Namaskar and a very good afternoon to all of you. I must say and thank CII for taking up this initiative. I think it's a very, very important initiative for which even the government of India is committed. And at least we owe it to our next generations, which are going to come through. I'll be taking you through a presentation, and this presentation is basically talking about the various initiatives and where the UN is also supporting this whole aspect. And going forward, I would be giving some illustrations also on what Hero has been doing. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be amongst all of you. And also I must thank some of my colleagues like Nihal, Birinder, Rajesh, Saili, and Anirudh for helping me put together this aspect. And they've been supporting me a lot in the initiatives that we have taken so far. So I'll just share the screen. I hope this is visible.
Yes, sir. Now it is perfect. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So I don't know, somehow my image has gone out. So
We can see you, sir. The video is clear,
Okay.
the audio is
Okay.
also clear.
Okay. So we come here to the CIA session on energy efficiency. I hope all of you are safe. The Omicron has been lesser kind of damaging to the mankind, but nevertheless, I think we should all stay safe and follow the safety protocol. I don't know if it's an outcome of the climate change or something else, but yes, we need to protect ourselves for sure. So if you see the climate reality check, I've just put through a lot of things which has come very recently in the news. You would have seen those in Delhi. I stay in Delhi, Gurgaon, and the kind of a cold wave that has come through was phenomenal. And I think it's just last 2 days we are able to see the sun. It has been really depressing atmosphere, I must say. And then the high pollution levels also. Unseasonal rains. I mean, very high level of all-time high rains. Also, I don't know how whether it has helped the crops or damaged the crops. Really don't know. In the U.S. also on the West Coast, there was a ice storm. Boston and all were under very severe icy conditions. And just prior to that, there were fires in Australia and US. So you see, all these things are happening big time. The tsunami also. No country is safe. I think it is something that the globally, the countries must take initiatives to control. Our ancient wisdom always says, uh, keep aligned with the nature. And that is something which we need to learn now and undo a lot of things that we have done so far. So if you look at the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals that have been recently been put through, and that came after, I think, the Paris Agreement of 2015. And prior to that, there was the Millennium Sustainability Goals. And it's something that has been going around. Today, there are about 17 areas on which the world is focusing for the Sustainable Development Goals. But today, we are going to talk mainly on the affordable clean energy and the climate change. So if you look at uh, uh, the necessity for clean and affordable energy, uh, they have been pushing this for a long time since 1992. And we have had the UN Environment Program, which is for the Intergovernment Panel on Climate Change. And recently, I'll touch upon the Code Red subsequently as we go forward. So if you look at this graph, the y-axis shows the net CO2 emissions, and the other y-axis talks about the temperature rise. So it's from less than 2 degrees to 5 degrees. And this is where we are today. And if the trend continues uncontrolled, I mean, we are going to head for a catastrophe. So the initiatives that are taken here is on the SSP 1.9 scenario, which correlates on major three aspects: net zero emission by 2050 and a 1.5 degree world. So we'll be hovering around somewhere here so that we bring about a world to a much better place to live in, and at least for the future generations that we have. I don't know how many of us will be there by 2050, but at least our children, grandchildren, and the young generation of today will be definitely there. So energy efficiency will contribute to 20-30% in achieving the net zero emissions. So I think various strategies would be adopted by the countries in which India is also participating. And they have a fund of almost about $100 billion per annum slated to be given, out of which they have, I think, gathered only about 20-25% of it. So there's still a long way to go, because the developed countries and other countries need to contribute for the global environment initiatives. India is also going to benefit for there, but hopefully, I think after a decade or so, it might be good that India may be able to contribute to the globe. This is the version of the planet we live in. So if you look at just 1.5 degree, you see a nice blue earth when you go out of the sky, and see the beautiful earth. This is what it looks like. And the futures, if it goes by 2 degrees, see the amount of heat. This is just a depiction, and 3 degrees. It's a difference of 0.5 and 1 degree at each this thing, but see what lies ahead. So I think for the future generation, it's very important that we don't want the glaciers to melt, the rivers to dry off. And obviously, this would be supported by new technology and other things that will come in. I spoke about the Paris Agreement some time back. And this is where we want to go to less than 2, 2 degrees centigrade, is 1.3 to 1.4, but we call it normally 1.5. And this is possible if we achieve net zero by the year 2050. There are various innovative technologies which are coming through, which we'll have to adapt and enhance the resilience. So hydrogen has a very bright opportunity, though not in immediate terms. But even the government of India is coming up with a hydrogen policy. And going forward, I think these are the right steps for us to live in. We look at Code Red. This was again the interpolitical committee for climate change. There were about 2,000 scientists who came together, and that is where they sounded a warning and said, we should call it Code Red. So we have to take now drastic measures to see how we adapt to climate change, enhance resilience, and align resources to address climate risk holistically. I think it's very important that we need to undo what we have done earlier and harness new technologies innovatively to go forward from here. All strategies are very good as long as you're able to execute them flawlessly. There are various initiatives which are again very important. So there has to be a framework. So if you look at the framework for energy efficiency, we have the buckets which has been bucketed under technology, optimization, digitalization, system strengthening, and future. I'll be taking you through some of these initiatives that has been taken at Hero. But before that, I must say that I had the good fortune of interacting with Professor Sonam Wangchuk, a brilliant person, very simple man, down to earth. And he has been able to do wonders, what I've seen. I think all of you, if you have gone to the net and look at his contribution, the ice pyramids that was created and the recent problems of the pollution in the NCR region, the crop burning that we do. So if the waste of the crop is collected and processed, it can turn into insulation bricks. And then he has used the path of the sun, that is from the east to the west on the southern hemisphere, which sort of gives sunlight, and it preserves the energy inside the houses. So absolutely no external energy required. You're using the natural energy. Again, low cost houses, and a wonderful initiative of keeping the houses warm, instead of burning chulas and all, which create a huge amount of pollution in the Himalayan region also. I've seen some of the few things in the videos in the hutments in Thailand, where they drill a hole through the roof and put a 2-liter Coke bottle with water inside. So the sun rays, when they hit the thing, it disperses and lights the hut very methodically. We have adopted these technologies in our operating plants, and sort of use natural lighting in daytime to sort of give focused natural lighting towards the working area. That reduces the daylight. We don't have to put on the lights at all. And another aspect where I heard was, this waste bottles that they have, they just open the cap of the bottle and cut the base and then put it into the huts, particularly in the direction of the wind. So if you remember Bernoulli's equation, there is a pressure drop, velocity increase, and temperature drop. So with this, the outside ambient hot air is converted naturally into cool air. So like this, there are many jugards or systems which are prevalent, and we need to learn from them and take it forward. So let me just go through some of the things that we talked about on the technology. So I think I need not mention more on that, from 2-stroke to 4-stroke. That was a huge improvement in the efficiency. But today, that itself with BS6, the pollution is so less, but still it's not good enough. And that's where we are looking at and supporting the government's initiative on the ethanol consumption. So ethanol is going to have two uh, achievements that will happen. One, of course, will be the reduction of the import fuel, and the second aspect would be developing this from the local natural resources that we have. So these farmers also who are actually having a problem, and we are producing excess grains. So new second generation refineries are being put through, which are going to generate uh, ethanol, and these will be distributing across. So from E10 pan India will be going to E20 by 2025, and some of these states will have E85, which is a high percentage of ethanol as a flex fuel vehicle, which is quite widely prevalent in Brazil. And we have natural resources for that. We'll not be going through, as I understand, only 50% will come through from the traditional molasses route. The rest will come from the grains. And there are third generation technologies also which are coming through. I think this kind of initiative of the government and the industry working together will definitely be beneficial for the whole country. Also, there are CAFE norms. Today, a two-wheeler emits about 32 grams per kilometer, and a car emits about 130, I think. So there are initiatives to bring it down to 110 for the car and 10% improvement for the CAFE norms. So it serves two purposes. One is the better fuel efficiency and less CO2 generation. I'm speaking more on this being from the auto industry. Uh, Initiatives at all new plants for Hero. And I'll give you examples here. I think these are very standard stuff which has happened. Complete changeover to LED lighting, energy efficient equipment. We use renewable energy, the solar system, the solar pipe, the wind ventilators. So natural ventilators which are rotated by the wind, they make these air changes which are required inside the factory. And of course, the green building initiatives. These are various initiatives for reducing energy consumptions, VFD, which we use in the paint shop, and energy efficient equipment, waste heat recovery, tri-generation, many more things. On the solar plant, it is always very critical that we locate it at such an angle that when the sun moves from the Cancer to Capricorn, it generally travels in the southern hemisphere from east to west. And that gives us the maximum efficiency. And one thing that we have noticed, that these panels require a regular cleaning to derive the best kind of energy. Of course, during monsoons and cloudy weathers and dusty atmosphere, it doesn't work, but they operate best, if I think most efficient at, I think, around 29 degrees centigrade. If I look at the green roof initiative, this is our Hardwar plant. This is the largest green roof plant that we have put. 45,000 square meter of green roof. Now, this gives a very cooling effect to the atmosphere, and there are various ways that we have been able to establish this and work out in a sustained way. In the Nimrana plant, we also 20,000. So across all our factories and units, we have implemented the green roof. And not only that, we have what we call generation of hydroponic plants. What you see here is a hydroponic plant, and this is something we use the nutrients which is fed into the plants. They don't have soil there, and the productivity of these plants is 5 times. So whether it is cherry tomatoes or cucumbers or any kind of vegetable that comes through, it gives huge amount of productivity. And we just add some nutrients through the water and control the temperature inside. And believe me, the lettuce and other things that you taste, is really out of the world. So I won't say it doesn't fall into the gamut of organic, but yes, it's not having any pesticide and the taste is super. And this is fed to and given to all our people across our unit. So all our workers, officers, staff, they carry these things with them either in the canteen or at home. So coming to the next part of it is on the technologies of VAM. I think all of you are aware of these technologies that under vacuum this is carried out. So this is something that we are now air conditioning our offices and the engine assembly. And this was done long back, where we use this VAM machine to cool our engine assembly, where we're using compressor earlier. And now we are using this technology to improve our this thing, which is nothing but a delta T from the input is coming from the heat source, which is the output of the radiator, and input of the radiator is what we use to work this out. This I mentioned about the solar panel. Another aspect which is very important is the cost benefit analysis. So if you have high efficient solar panels, then the cost is high. So these are useful in areas where you don't have much of space, but where you have space, a slightly less efficient would also be. So at the end of the day, it's just a cost benefit analysis, which is very important. You have technologies in which the panels are also changing their direction based on the sun path, and that improves the efficiency to a considerable extent. Where you can see this is a depiction of what we are doing. We have put some pilot in some of our units, and the other part is, purchase the renewable energy. So you have, what I say is, at the source that is most efficient to avoid the grid loss, and in the evening where it is we are near closer to the coastline, it is very wind turbines can generate and give you that night from, let's say, sunset to midnight. So both the shifts sort of get addressed by this kind of energy. Then, of course, the future energies are biothermal, geothermal, hydropower. The only thing that the government of India and all the states must do is collaborate to see that the wheeling possibilities are taken care of very well. So I go to the next one about utilization of waste as a fuel. So I did talk about the VAM chiller, the gas genset, also the exhaust for waste heat recovery of the boiler. So these things are being done across the thing continuously to sort of improve our efficiencies, and at the end of the day, costs as well. So we require a high degree of cleanliness for the engine. And these are the examples of some of the washing machines which use heaters to heat the water to about 70-75 degrees centigrade so that it gets thoroughly cleaned and flushed with all the oil passages. And we have developed, earlier we were using from the waste heat recovery boiler, which was actually for burning the sludge. But today, as a part of zero wastage, so we don't want to burn that. We give it to the paint plant that is used for co-processing. Cement plant, and this is used for the co-processing. And another thing is using the heat pump basically. So cold water is compressed, heated up, and that is taken up into again the preheating of the tank, so that energy utilized is less. And then, of course, through the expansion wall, it cools down and goes back into the system. The other thing is on the digitalization. Now, that is the future. At the end of the day, we have got this individual cockpits now at each unit. And by next year, we'll be combining this into a central unit. So sitting remotely at some place, we'll be able to control all the utilities from one point, which will also result in, what shall I say, good predictive maintenance, a stitch in time. We will know how a thing is going to fail and sort of try and improve on the efficiency, real-time information. So next page talks about all the benefits that we arrive with the thing. Of course, you need an analytics tool also to get so much of data, which is the real-time response, planning of the preventive maintenance, so reducing the inventory cost. So it's a win-win situation, I must say, throughout. If I look at system strengthening, which is again a very important aspect from the management point of view, so a structure is very essential in a plant, and it goes like a pyramid starting from the plant head to the bottom, driving the management initiatives through this chain. So it's a regular review mechanism of PDCA. I think this is a very vital part of it. Otherwise, sometimes just a feel good factor, it doesn't go along. But these are ways to sustained way we are able to sort of create this uh, uh, initiatives. If I look at the CIA Greenco Gold certification, our Hardwar plant, Gurgaon plant, Dharwada plant are certified by Gold, and Nimrana also. Nimrana is platinum. Our R&D setup is platinum, which we recently got it. So all the new plants that are coming up are going through a notches difference above the old plants, and we are finding out ways and means to improve on the old. I must thank the Greenco initiative by CIA for supporting us in this matter. They are very, very tough. They have got a very, very structured way of, evaluating this thing, and a continuous improvement is very, very essential. I would urge all to adopt these kind of things to really improve on their efficiencies. Then, of course, OPEX through TPM, very, very practical use on the shop floor. Uh, Waste reduction, rejection, so you don't unnecessarily run the machines, and time and breakdown losses, all those factors do contribute to the carbon reduction. And then, of course, without people, nothing can be done. So training of people is very, very vital part of it. And we need to actually see that this awareness is created. In fact, a lot of these learnings which I got from these people, I've implemented it at my home also. And believe me, it works. Uh, ISO 50001 is again a very good standard for energy efficiency. And this is something which I would urge many industries to follow this. It's establishing a very systematic process of how we should be improving the energy efficiency. Then, of course, specific energy consumption, internal and external benchmarking. I think it's very important, which we do continuously with the competition. But this is a healthy benchmarking, which we should continue and do it with all the stakeholders. And I think this is an area where we can transparently share the information and create this collaborative approach as we go forward. I talked about the deployment. So the management policy, how it is deployed from the plant head policy, where various things are written here. And of course, one of the things is the reduce the total product carbon emission. Then the manufacturing head on reducing the manufacturing cost, and to control maintenance cost to achieve manufacturing variable. I told you earlier that in a manufacturing plant, typically 50% of the manufacturing cost is attributed to power. So at the end of the day, when you take up all these energy efficient initiatives, it does help your bottom line. At Hero, we have been having a power strategy that we roll out every 5 years, and every year we keep on adding new initiatives because nothing is stagnant. In the past 2 decades that I've been with Hero, I've seen how we have evolved earlier from the LDO, DG sets to gas gen sets to now newer technologies. And I think as we go forward, there are many more things in line to come. Uh, Nothing works well without teamwork. And in manufacturing setup, I must say, uh, bringing in 2,600 parts in time, assembling it, and doing about 200 SKUs is a phenomenal task, and across 6 of our plants and 2 global plants. So see the amount of stuff that comes through. In the peak period, we were doing almost 30,000 vehicles. But today, the demand lag is there thanks to the pandemic. But as we go forward, we definitely see a bright future where the requirement would be high. So any kind of a new person who comes in is given a proper induction. So it's a culture building for power energy efficiency, continuous awareness solutions. A simple thing like switching off the light when you go out of the room is important. And employee involvement, they own it. They have various competitions. So, at different things, people feel they are wanted. And this goes in for inclusive involvement of the people across. And then, of course, idea awards, implementation, recognition. And then once good ideas are there, you list it across on the y-axis, x-axis, you put the plants and draw a correlation and see that how many you can horizontally deploy. So a lot of people, or 100% of our employees, are involved in energy conservation. And it's the people involvement that brings about this momentum. The approach adopted as we go ahead is, look at the top Pareto guzzlers. We are ISO 50001 and company, and Pareto analysis of the top guzzlers. So if you look at the air section unit for the paint shops, that's one big. Heat treatment plants is another. So identify many of these things and see that how we can improve upon it, which we have done continuously. So in spite of so much of inflation, we have been able to curtail our manufacturing cost almost at the same level for the last 1 decade. If I look at the future is obviously when we look at both the short-term and long-term initiatives. So these colored ones in the yellowish thing is the short-term, and the blue ones are the long ones. So various initiatives on carbon, water waste. Yes, water. We are almost 331% potential we have for harnessing water, and by another few years we'll go to 500%. I think the next wars may be fought on water and not anything else. There's so many wonderful multi-story complexes you see are really going to be lying vacant if we face a water crisis. So that's a very, very important thing. Even a minor thing like putting a small shower kind of an attachment on your tap will reduce the consumption drastically. So many things are done, zero waste, zero discharge. That thing is going on. On the sectoral vision, of course, all the companies are taking initiatives on the EVs, which is getting very rapidly. Hybrid vehicles also. And as things go forward, the CAFE norms, which are going to get tougher and tougher, will essentially call for the hybrid as well. And then the balancing out between the ICE as well as the EVs. And maybe eventually, as the cell technology evolves, it may go into a regular EV, but that would take some more time, I guess. And then, of course, science-based targets. And the other parts is, of course, cradle to cradle design, which is in our Nimrana plant. It is already there. We are looking at it from this thing. If you want, you can go to the YouTube and look at the video of manufacturing happiness at Hero Motocorp plant in Nimrana. And the national vision. I think the government is very, very aggressive, and they have got their targets and putting through, and DPIIT and others are having initiatives with the industry and CIA also to look at how we can go about it. There might be a tax regime based on energy efficiency as we go forward. And then, of course, the global vision. So starting from the organization to the sector to the national to the global, I think initiatives are going across the board. Oops. I don't know why this is not moving. Some technical error. I'll do that manually now. So these are various initiatives that we are taking for the involvement of the people, leaflets, tips on energy saving, leaflets on water energy saving through SMS models. So social media is also a very important tool for us to communicate and take it forward, not just inside, but to our homes also. various things on how a boiling kettle consumes water, the fan if left on, or just a mobile charger, you keep it overnight, or using the incandescent bulb to the LED. I mean, these are various things which are known. I come to my last slide, which is very important on the policies and agenda. When I say top driven, there are two things which are very important for us in Hero. One of the things was our own chairman emeritus, who was always advocating that we must give back to the society from where we do the business. And our chairman, Mr. Pawan Munjal, Dr. Pawan Munjal, is again highly passionate about green and green initiatives. So for us, it goes from the top and then it percolates down, as I told you, in the bottom. Then, of course, improved efficiencies and technology, promoting knowledge, various ways, because knowledge is going to be power, and technology, which is evolving so much, needs to be harnessed. Future of mobility, again, improved generation, EVs, which is going to come through. Local manufacturing. I did mention about generator side, because we need energy. Energy is important, but it has to be sustainable. Then the solar part I've already mentioned. Collaboration and participation is going to be very, very important. So industries need to align themselves, and they need to align with various bodies to go about it. Lastly, I will say is the young India. At the end of the day, we must create children as rock stars who will carry this initiative forwards. And I'm happy to see that a lot of these children's schools have started teaching about it. And I hope they teach them also at the end of the day to be better human beings. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much. I think your address spoke first with a global perspective, sir, then coming to India, and then talking specifically about Hero MotoCorp's action plan, targets, and right from the shop floor level, talking about solar, VAMs, heat pumps, excellent, sir, and also talking about what lies in future. There are a few questions that have come, sir. I'll try to group them and pose them to you to take your inputs and suggestions. Uh, of course, you mentioned about your group working with nearly about 2,600 parts, sir, in the assembly line, and that's a really large number. And I'm sure you will be working with a large number of companies in your supply chain. As a large group, sir, as an OEM, how are you engaging with the supply chain, sir? How are you promoting efficiency in the supply chain? I'm sure you have several programs around it over the last many years. What have been the results of them, sir?
Yeah, so let me tell you, we started this long back, more than a decade back. We were talking about the Green Vendor Development Program. Now we are participating. We have gone a notch further about the sustainability development. So this has been kicked off last year, and we are supporting them. Then, as far as our supply chain partners are concerned, all these initiatives that we have taken are shared with them, our teams, and there are many times that we learn from them. So this is a regular feature across, where there is a transparent flow of information and initiatives which are traded across, and sometimes each factory has its own, or each unit has its own nuances. So what is good for people, they grasp it and do it. So it benefits all. At the end of the day, it's a win-win situation. I'll be honest with you, we started this program earlier to sort of safeguard ourselves against the pollution control authorities. But I think that is passé. We have gone beyond that, and now we are really looking ahead for this.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there are at least about 8 different questions on what you think is the future of EVs coming into the place, sir. I mean, there have been different questions looking at what is the readiness of the market today. Some questions on what are your organization's plans in terms of looking at EV. So maybe I'll leave it to you, sir, to share your views on where you think is the future of electric vehicles in the country.
So I think the government did listen to the industry, and there were many things which were evolved, I will say. And the FAME 2 policies which came in has really given a very good impetus. So if you see the volumes now, that the people are quite buying these things very well. Every auto manufacturer worth its salt is definitely investing big time into EV. So EV is there to stay, in my opinion. Only thing is we must realize and understand that this has to be self-sustaining. The subsidies is something which are not uh, something which the government can give for all time to come. But I think an initial hand-holding initiative that the government of India is very welcome. And I think all this PLI and other things that they're putting through is encouraging people to set up. And of course, a lot of backward integration needs to go through, which countries like China have done that very well, I must say. And any kind of an EV does require electronic parts, and we need to have those kind of things because the whole world is going digital, and there is a tremendous shortage of electronic parts. So we have to plan it in advance and create internal capacity, and the whole initiative of Atmanirbhar Bharat is going to be very, very useful for us. So even if you if you set up a electronic manufacturing plant here, it requires huge investments, but that's not going to be all. It requires a backward integration of doing the R&D or development work for the new softwares, new technology, new wafers, new microprocessors, because the world is changing rapidly. We are now talking about metaverse, which is going to come as a virtual world after some time. So these kind of things are going to be very, very vital. And I must say one thing, that R&D is very, very vital and important for this. So any kind of an industry which does not have its R&D cannot sustain as we go forward. So that is true as far as the EV is also concerned, because ICE has given us incremental improvements. I showed you the four-cylinder engine and what I'm showing you now. I mean, at the end of the day, whatever we did was excellent, very good, and I have been born with in this industry, so I know how efficient they are yesterday and how efficient they are today. But that's not good enough. It has to go on better and better and better. But at the end of the day, these are incremental improvements. What we see with the EV is a quantum jump, and also the digitalization in and deep learning and AI and all these things are here to stay. So we will have to evolve, develop our talent, we'll have to train people and take it forward. The millennials today are also very tech savvy, so they want technology. So even your mate today says, sir, can you please put this thing on they tell my wife, you put it on the Facebook. So even they are quite savvy, and thanks to the low cost of internet, it has penetrated to rural areas as well. So I think as we go forward, if the costs come down and we go less than $60 per kilowatt hour, that is the point that EV will overtake. It's anybody's guess. So one should not, go on such kind of predictions. There are many theories and many things that will come out, but at the end of the day, the organization must be agile, adaptable, and flexible to absorb these technologies and have these opportunities where they can grow.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. A couple of questions on the energy efficiency projects that you get from the team, sir. You spoke about employee engagement. One specific question is, how do you keep the employees continuously engaged so that they can come forward with more and more ideas and suggestions? And second is, sir, how as a management team, how do you select the projects? On what basis do you select? Is it based on the life cycle cost? Is it based on the overall impact on multiple other implications on quality, on energy, or so on? So basically, two things, sir. One is, how do you get the ideas continuously coming from the employees? And second, how do you select the projects to be taken forward for implementation?
So on people front, I think it is very important that we communicate with the people. So I may be sitting and I may be occupying a chair of a particular position in an organization, but I should be accessible to all. That doesn't mean I ask anybody to just walk in, but any person who takes time and comes to me, I do give him this thing. So there should be an opportunity for people to express themselves. We must listen to them. We must respond to them. That doesn't mean every time you have to say yes to everything, but then listen to them, understand and respond back. So this kind of a feeling that yes, somebody has listened to me itself is very good. And believe me, encourage them on those ideas. So some of them could be, they make presentations in open platform or recognize them at some monthly communication meeting and things like that, or a departmental meeting, or quietly call him and encourage him. I think this has to be done at all levels of the leadership teams. So people feel wanted. That is very, very important. And once you are encouraged, then you don't come up with just one, you come up with multiple ideas. And then it has a cascading effect. So this is the kind of a culture building that one must have. Otherwise, you can just ridicule somebody and throw him out. However bad the idea is, I mean, we put it, what we call this idea into IL 99, we call it, which is a parking slot. It is not taken out ever, because as technology changes, as things evolve, they get back into the system. So what was not possible 3 years back is possible today. So never rule out any of these ideas which come through. So people get engaged in that level at all levels, and this is true for any human being. And as far as projects are concerned, one thing is very important, that people must be given a chance to explore, experiment, and that fear of failure should not be there. At the end of the day, please understand there are limited resources and funds available. So it can't be something like a free for all. So these are management decisions, where we always look at IRR and things like that. But some of them may be strategic in nature. So we know initially we start with, but we know in the future, this is something which is going to help. So if you look at, let's say, the EV technology itself, today there's a huge amount of cash burn. But we know as we go forward, anything that comes into auto industry will become highly efficient, effective, and the costs are bound to come down. We know how we have done so much on our manufacturing cost, the material cost, and various improvements that we carry out is a continuous process. I won't call it's a rat race, but it's a continuous process to keep on improving. So it's not a blind kind of a thing that we play, but it has to be done in a very structured manner. And people must be given that opportunity to explore new technologies, but they must come up with a solid plan.
Thank you, sir. There have been several questions on the factory rating and the green core rating, which you spoke about, sir. All the plans are now either green building factory rated or green core rated. Two questions, sir. One is, what has been your experience in this journey? And second is, what are your suggestions for energy efficiency by design in other factories that they can learn and take back from your experience, sir?
Yeah. So I think a few things which are very important is, first of all, the people initiatives. At the end of the day, you might be sitting in a nice, comfortable AC cabin, which is again adding more to the greenhouse impact. As against that, the shop floor also has to be very good. People working on the shop floor, which are the masses, they must also feel good, comfortable, good place to eat, good place to sit, and a comfortable atmosphere to work on. So this is something I think very, very essential and important. Now, how do we do that is I've given various steps. It might, you see, sometimes people are foolish to see that initial cost is high, but let's look at the recurring cost and the returns that we get on energy, because energy is something, the capex is only one time, but the costs are going to be recurring nature. So focus on the recurring cost to reduce the, operating cost. So these are various things that we need to look at it. Then, of course, better insulation, better dust prevention, positive atmosphere inside, and then IE4 motors and all that we use. These are highly energy efficient motors. They give about 30% more. 100 kilowatt power motor is there. It will do the work with 70. So these kind of things are important. And then as you evolve, the technologies also evolve, and that needs to be adopted. I gave various examples of what we did. Those are passé. Now we have to look at the future on digitalization and how we can further on real-time basis improve on the energy efficiency, or the LT system also, these smart grids, which the government is also looking at. You can have it at your end also. So these are various initiatives which are going to be the future.
Thank you, sir. A couple of questions on the sector at large, sir. As a leading player in this space, sir, how do you see Indian automobile sector, particularly the two-wheeler space, compared with other global peers, sir? Are we at par? Are we better? If there are some experiences or some learning to be taken in from other players elsewhere in the world, are there any such areas to look at?
Yeah, sure. So, there is a misconception today that what vehicles we manufacture are a commuter segment hai. Commuter segment is something, you look down upon, and maybe the high performance bikes, the European bikes and other things, we feel, that is real technology. And I don't deny that. But each sector has its own kind of nuances. So if you look at the commuter technology, higher fuel efficiency, less operating cost, comfort, noise, NVH, people are highly sensitive to that. The customers have really evolved today. And if you look at the standards which India is following, they are global standards, whether it is in regulations, we have everything that is there. So we are on par with Europe. In fact, when we talk to the government authorities today, he says, why are you quoting Europe? You should do something better and go one step forward. But I think we are evolving. The R&D centers which have been put up by all the industries, that includes four-wheeler, two-wheeler also, are really evolving to do that. Of course, the supply base in India needs to evolve further. But I see many companies with whom we work, they also have their own R&D setup, and they are something that we are supporting them to come up. So the infrastructure of the supply base is also important here. And the learnings, when you say from other, I think an academia, industry, and the supply chain coordination is something which will do better, because we don't do R&D, honestly. We do design and development work. Of course, we do some flows which are not prevalent today, but those are very few and vital. The actual fundamental research is done by the academia. And if we collaborate together, this is something that will have cutting edge technology being developed in India. And that's the difference it makes. That's why Apple may be manufactured in China, but it's made in US. So the real technology, the back-end technology comes from that point, which is very, very important for us. And I think I'm proud to say the Indians have it within us to do it. And I must say our two-wheelers would compare with the best in class globally.
Thank you, sir. Sir, you mentioned about circular economy in your presentation, sir. Right now, the auto scrappage or recycling policy is open for commercial vehicles, and with a large number of two-wheelers coming to the end of their life, do you see a need for auto scrappage policy in the two-wheeler space as well? And do you think that can make a large impact as far as material efficiency of the sector is concerned?
I think it's a welcome move on the part of the government to follow this. So most of the two-wheelers are looking at the end of the life cycle, and we are also looking at, there are some areas where some work still needs to be carried out. So if I look at 100% recyclability, so some of these are, something like the electrolyte in the battery, or the lead, or the deposition that we have in the electronic components. That also needs to be recycled. So I'm talking at the micro level also. So we have got teams and plans to do that. We were the first to remove asbestos. And, because that goes from the basic philosophy of the organization. There was no regulation there. So I think one should not be bound by regulation, but, have that commitment towards sustainability. So yes, it's a very welcome move. And I don't know which model will work better. Maybe a decentralized one where, the local guys, they dismantle the vehicle, put it into various individual parts, put it into bins, buckets, have a milk run, collect everything and give it to the recycler, like the mills and all that, which do that. I think this is very, very essential and important. So practically everything, 95% of the vehicle can be recycled, in my opinion. So that is something a welcome. Tires is again something we'll have to look at it. How would you recycle tires? In fact, in our Chittur plant, we have used plastic for making the road. So we did it on a pilot basis, working very well till now. So such kind of initiatives are, I think, very, very important, and they will have some application which are useful.
Thank you, sir. Sir, the last question that I have is on Hero Group's future outlook, sir. On where do you see of course, there have been some of the questions asking, are you also looking at neutrality in your operations in short term or long term? So as a group, sir, what are your short term and long term targets, and where you think the group moves forward from now on?
So we have one of my colleagues who has joined recently. He's been appointed as a Chief Sustainability Officer. And as I told you, Dr. Munjal's, our chairman's vision is green and sustainability. So the kind of a focus is always there. Otherwise, we do this also, that also, sometimes that focus is lost. So this is the way structurally we have created to sort of take these initiatives forward. Then, of course, diversity and all that. So we have got our targets put across, which is there in the public domain. And there are many things that we are coming and evolving, and slowly we will make other things public also as to how will happen. The other thing, as far as the business is concerned, our vision is be the future of mobility. Now, mobility does not just mean two-wheelers, it could mean multiple facets of mobility and all the other value-added services that go along with the mobility. So the opportunities are huge and immense. We just need to adapt ourselves. The nuts and bolts technology will give way to digital technology, to connectivity, to telemetry, to the way business is being carried out. So we are in for a change in the entire ecosystem. You won't see this change year on year, but I think standing in 2020 and when we reach 2030, you will see the dramatic change. So that is what we are looking at, be the future of mobility.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your address. Thank you for patiently responding to several questions that have come from the participants, sharing your views and thoughts on your perspectives on energy efficiency, as well as the group's action plan so far and the way ahead. I'll leave the floor to you, sir, for your last comments, and with that, we could close this session. Over to you, sir.
I thank you very much again for giving me this opportunity. Sometimes I feel, the pandemic has made things easier for us to sit at home or in your office and interact with people globally. It's a good thing, I must say. It saves a lot of travel and carbon emissions, again, reduction. But I think it's wonderful, when you're amongst people and you have a face-to-face contact, eye contact with people and you interact with them. That pleasure is different altogether. So I definitely miss that kind of a thing of interacting with people one-to-one, looking for this thing to get over fast and come out of it. Only thing I must say in my parting message is I did mention in the beginning, please stay safe. At the end of the day, follow the safety protocols. Protect yourself, protect your family, protect others. Life is very, very important. And the parting comment, which I mentioned in my last slide, is the children who are going to be the rock star of tomorrow. So please educate them and give them those inputs in which they'll carry this torch forward. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.